Hello and welcome to another. Oh, I seem to not have audio. One moment. Oh, maybe I do have audio. I do have audio. Hello and welcome to another Island 54 development stream where I am working on my survival crafting MMO. I don't think I streamed on Friday and finished up Thursday's stream after some tech issues. My computer kind of started locking up, uh, and my stream actually died. Um, So I have unfortunately not had a huge amount of time to work on this stuff. I have been busy on other things. So I'm going to see where I was at. I haven't even looked at this stuff since I finished up my last stream. Um, I'll just make sure that um, it does appear that we are live on Twitch. And I will also check if I can find my YouTube dev stream, view in the control room. Make sure that that one is live. That is looking good. Excellent. So I do remember that I was working on getting the deletion things working. So let's just take a look at the code that I was working on. This is going to take me a few minutes just to get my head back around where I was at. So you will just need to bear with me here. So I'll just look at what changes I've got outstanding. Yes, so I added the update type. This is not my, is that my code? No, that's not my code. That's part of the Protobuf code. Yes, and then I just made some significant changes in here where I was trying to get it to send the actual deletions out. Okay. So let's have a look at that code. Sorry, which file was that in? Client game state. Welcome, random guy. I have done absolutely nothing since my last stream finished up prematurely. So I am currently just trying to work out what I was working on. I know that it was to do with chunk deletion. Okay, so what do I have here? My computer has had a full reboot since, well, immediately after those issues. So I'm not expecting anything to be I'm not expecting to have the same tech issues. Where's OBS gone? I have lost OBS. Just to make sure my volume levels are okay. There we go, testing. Yeah, there we go. I have also had an OBS update come through that I wonder if that's what caused some of the issues. But it does seem that my UI has completely changed, which is a little distracting. Okay, where are we in here? Yes, we need to check if the chunk has been invalidated. Now, the reason for this is if we keep on coming through for every entity, then what we're going to see is we're going to keep on adding. We're going to come in here. Does this look right? Server entities by chunk. So this is saying that we don't have any other server entities. Oh yeah, otherwise it's going to come down here. Yeah, this doesn't look right to me. If we come in here, it's because I might just actually put a breakpoint in here and actually just watch this code running. This is in the UDP transmitter that this code runs. So UDP transmitter, debug. Skip that version for now. I might do that later. Okay, let's play it. And then I'll just watch this UDP code come through. So we are in generate message. This has all entity IDs, which is going to be the same size, I believe, as entities. So we're trying to load 101 entities into the client. All entity IDs has 101 items in it. That makes sense. We don't have any extras because the client has no data. So we are trying to generate a delta. Is this generate delta that we're in here? Yeah, generate message. Sorry, generate message for all 101 entities. Okay. But then for each of those, yes. So for each of those 101 IDs, we grab the server entity, which is a valid entity. We grab the client entity, which I presume is empty. Yep, undefined. If we don't have either, then yeah, something's gone wrong there, so ignore that case. We get the location. This should have a chunk. Yep. It has a chunk and a hex. Nice. Then we grab the current chunk. Great, that's just the chunk from that location. We grab a chunk key, which is just a string version of that. Then we generated an update. Now this should be, I guess, an update type. I think 2 is update. Yep. Has all the location data. It has the component data. Excellent. So this is trying to tell the client about this entity that the client does not yet know about. We do have a current chunk and we do have a chunk key. So this is our main case. If we don't have these things, then there's not much it can do. Yeah, there we go. It just ignores that because we don't have a location. So there isn't an update to send through. Now, that's not ideal because what happens if somebody picks up an item? So I'm going to put a to-do in here. To do what happens if an item is being picked up? Because in that case, we are not going to see a location on that item. At least we won't have a chunk on that item. It'll have a location, but it'll have a parent ID set. Why was the broom late for a meeting? Something about being swept away. No idea. Why was the broom late for a meeting? If current chunk and chunk key, hang on, it will have a parent entity ID instead of a chunk. I think that's right. Refactor this to get rid of duplicated code. Yep, I remember putting this in. It overswept. Ooh, I do like that one. Refactor this to get rid of duplicated code. Okay, if chunk key in server entities by chunk. Now, okay. I'll put a comment on this because this does make sense. I'm just going to say handle the case where the entity exists on the client, but there are no entities in this chunk on the server. And then in here, I'm just going to do check this implementation. I think that what I want to do is just always, in this case, send through a chunk invalidation to the client with a deletion flag set. This should probably just send a chunk invalidation, deletion type. Okay. Otherwise, so in this case, we're not going to step into this code because we're not deleting a chunk. Oh, wait, how did I get all the way down into here? Oh, yeah, there's an else case. If that, no, how did I get down into here? I think this is just because I have, yeah, I changed the code, so my lines don't line up. I think I was actually on this line here. It's actually slightly annoying of IntelliJ that it doesn't, that it's not able to map the lines, but that'd be a fairly tricky problem for them, I suppose. Okay. Debug. Stop this one. Run it. All right. So handle the case where the entity exists on the client, but there are no entities in this chunk. So we have skipped over that case. We now get the entities that are in the chunk. Which is a single item. Okay, because we are just sending through the first update. That makes sense. If we have too many, then we'll convert it into an invalidation. And then update the index and then return it. So in this case, index should just have a single item in it. Oh, it doesn't have any items in it. Oh, that's the old index, sorry. By ID should have a single item in it. Yep, it does. Deleted chunks should be empty. Index deleted chunks is empty, and by chunk should have a single item in it. Where's by chunk? Oh, well, it's the old one, which is empty, and then a single item. It has that chunk key and a single item here. Entities in chunk. Yeah, we've already seen that. Okay, so we come through again. We're now going to do a second item. Our chunk key in this case is 00, so I think we're going to come through that exact same piece of code. Yep. We come through again. Here's another 00, so this one should be a bit more interesting. We come through, entities in chunk should have something in it already. Oh, we're doing everything in 00. So yeah, we've got a couple of items in that. Sorry, yes. So we've got the previous one and this one. And yeah, this is all pretty boring. Come through again, we put a third item in, a fourth item in, and here comes, I think, a fifth item. Yep. Max entities per chunk is 5, so we're still allowed. Here comes a sixth item. So this should now convert the updates that we've been putting in into a chunk invalidation, because it'll realize at this point that there are too many. Now, I am aware that this is an inefficient way of doing it. We could equally be seeing that the client doesn't know about these entities, but we still need to handle the case where lots of updates are coming through. And in order, if the client and the server agree on how many items there are, and we need to send through lots of updates, we don't know that we're going to come into this code until we've generated the updates. So I'm just going to leave this as it is. While there is an optimization in the case where the client doesn't know about these items, it's just going to complicate the code. So I'm going to ignore that for now. So in this case, we generate our sixth item. So we should come into this section. Yep. We are going to register the invalidation. So this is going to actually add a chunk invalidation with an invalidated type. And then we are going to return. Now, in this case, by ID should continue to have like 7 items in it or something. Yep. But by chunk should now be empty. Oh, sorry, it's got that one other item that we had already previously done, but we no longer have the items in chunk 00. But then invalidated chunks should have, well, here it is, it's coming in here. Okay, so now we go and generate another one. Now here I think is a bug. Because we're trying to put another item into 00, but we've already generated an invalidation for this. But you can see here what it is doing is it's going to go and have the chunk invalidation, which is under index, invalidate index. We've got a chunk invalidation here, but we're about to add something into by chunk, which is bad. Okay, yes, and I believe this is what I was fixing when I first came through. So what's actually going to be happening in this version of the code is if we've got, say, 20 entities in a chunk, we're actually going to send through like 3 or 4 invalidations for that one chunk, because we're going to keep on adding updates until we get 5 of them. And then once we add the 6th one, we're going to convert that into an invalidation. But we already told it to invalidate. But then it's going to go and generate more. So this is wrong. Stop the code. Stop this one. And let's implement. I've probably got it to do for this. Yep, here it is. Check if this chunk has been invalidated. So what I am going to do, I'm just going to have a set of invalidated chunks. Just go const invalidated chunks. It's going to be a new set of string. And I'm just going to store the chunk key in here when we invalidate something. So in here, we can say if chunk invalidated chunks dot has chunk key, then just return index. We don't need to do anything. If we're trying to generate an update or trying to delete an item and we've already invalidated that chunk, then there is no need to do anything. String or undefined. If chunk key and that. Okay. This is looking good. So let's try it again. Spin up the server. So what I'm expecting to see now, I'll just very quickly step through until we have 5 items in the origin chunk. And then we should see it take the 6th item, convert it into an invalidation, and then we should never even consider a 7th item if this is working. That has crashed. Let's try it again. Oh, I really need the first. I need to see the first packet go out. So let's. Is going to be a pain. Hold on. I think I have to blow away the database, unfortunately. Otherwise, I'm going to be catching it, sending out packets to those dead sessions. So let's just do Docker Compose down. That. Run it again. Okay, what's this doing? Am I on a breakpoint in Rider? Yes. Okay. Ah, keeps crashing. How frustrating. Okay, just bear with me here. I'm just going to have to keep trying this until I don't get my debug connection killed. Rerun this. I think the issue before was that I had a breakpoint in Unity, in Rider, and that was causing something to hang around. Now this should not hit a breakpoint yet. Wait for everything to come up and be stable. This looks stable. You guys can't really see it, but anyway. Come in here, we run this, and that should trigger the breakpoint. There we go. We've got something in chunk 00. Something in a different chunk. Oh, we're getting a third thing in -10, fourth thing, fifth thing. Here comes number 6. So this should come into the entity code. Oh, I never add. I never add this to the I never add the chunk to the list of all invalidated chunks. So let's do dot add chunk key. Where else do I do this? I also do this in a deletion. Set deleted chunks. Oh, here it is. invalidated chunks, add chunk key. This is definitely wrong. Yeah, I'll get to that in a moment. This to do, I'm very sure, has a bug associated with it. Yeah, so what this current code is going to do, it's not the end of the world. It will try, if we have a chunk with 3 entities in it, well, if the client thinks there are 3 entities in it, this code will try and generate 3 deletion updates. And it's not until it gets to 5, well, once it gets to 6 deletion updates, that's the point that it will turn it into a proper chunk deletion. But there's no point in doing that because I think a chunk deletion is actually shorter than it's a smaller data than an entity deletion because there's no entity ID to send through. Entity IDs are 128 bits, whereas chunk keys, chunk IDs are like small, might be like 64 bits. And they're going to tend to be smaller numbers, so they'll compress better, is the other thing. So yeah, I don't want to do this. But let's just give this a go, bring our database down, come in here. It's a little bit annoying that the order of this code is non-deterministic. So it'd be nice if it were doing it in chunk order or something like that. But it seems to do it in a different order each time I run it. Okay, I didn't check that the server was stable, but here we go. It appears that it was. Okay, so we've got, I'm just looking at the current chunk in here. We've got 0, 0, minus 1, 0. Okay, that's our second, third, fourth, and fifth. Oh, I've turned on my little spam bot in my chat. Yeah, it'll go off every half hour or something. Sorry about that. Okay, so we step in here. Is this my 5th one? I just got distracted, which means I've lost count. No, then this is the 6th one. This will turn it into an invalidation. And then notice that we never get that 7th one through. In fact, I probably should have put a breakpoint up here, but I'm very confident that we just skipped over a bunch of entities. Well, let's just prove it. We've got minus 1, 1, minus 1, 1. That's the 3rd one, 4th one, 5th one. Here comes the 6th one. And now I reckon we'll come up into this code. No. Oh, wrong breakpoint. It should be here. We're doing chunk 0. I don't know how many that is, but we're about to come up to that other breakpoint. There we go. Okay. So that is working. So once we generate a chunk invalidation, we no longer consider that chunk anymore. That's perfect. If I let this run through, we should now have everything kind of working. This kind of looks a bit wrong. Oh, I've turned down the radius, haven't I? Why are we getting no shrubs? Yeah, this doesn't look right. It's not generating new scatter. What have I done? Oh, now it is. Oh, that's weird. I have no idea what's going on here. Huh. Oh, we're getting errors. Huh, that would do it. What is the error? Line 144. Oh, okay. Yes. If we don't have a server entity, so I need a question mark there. That was trying to pull location off an undefined. That this is failing when it tries to delete entities. And hey, I might as well do that as well. Yep, I need to do that. So the current chunk can be undefined. Yep, I reckon this will fix it. Yep, that looks better. And I've turned down all the radiuses and things, so that's all fine. Now, I will start a new session here just to let the client and server get back in sync. And we'll see what happens if I run this way and then I run back. I was kind of hoping it would delete these items in the distance. Oh, wait. Yeah, we've got chunk deletion not yet implemented. All right, let's implement that. Yep, chunk deletion not yet implemented. So I need to actually tell it to delete all the items that are in that chunk. So we've got a deletion. I need to very quiet over in chat. I've apparently only got one person in, and they're on Twitch. According to my restream stats, they're not always correct, but yeah, I guess it's Sunday night over in the US, isn't it? So how am I going to delete these? I've got to remember how to write C# now. Okay, so we grab the coordinate. Var chunk coord is going to be that. Set a bookmark. I just need to see where this is being called from. Process message from server, handle ACK server, handle new invalidations. No, this is where we are. So how do we handle when an invalidation comes in? We start a new handler. I just want to somehow go through and delete all of the items. Problem is, this is being done on a worker thread, I think. Let's confirm that. No, that looks like it's the main thread. Nope, it's definitely not the main thread. Yes, it is. We're getting called from inside update. Yeah, sorry. Yes, the UDP code on the client kind of grabs a copy of all the data in the UDP packet and then processes it on the main thread. So we are on the main thread here, which is really good. Is now what we can do. is we can say, I don't know, let's just make a set here. Var deleted chunks is going to be a new hash set of chunk coordinate. And let's just put deleted chunks dot add chunk coord like that. That needs to be an actual chunk coordinate. So let's go new chunk coordinate, new chunk coordinate dot v. There we go. Now what we can do is we can just iterate through all of the. I want to iterate through all of our items. Maybe. I mean, it would be nice if I had these sorted internally by chunk, because then I could just delete the entire subtree, couldn't I? Okay, I don't want to play maximized anymore. So under my world, out of ground, no, that systems, game, that doesn't look right. Yeah, so I don't do any sorting. All right, what I'll do for now is I'll just iterate through each of those and delete them. So, am I in a component? No. Sorry, am I in a game object? I'm not. So I don't have access to the normal stuff. I need this class to have access to the game objects. So I'll pass through a transform, which is just going to be the remote parent. Remote's parent. So this is just going to be the object holding everything in it. That said, I don't really want to couple this code to Unity, so this would be a mistake. All right, scratch that. Let's add an event instead. Public event, an action of chunk coordinate on chunk delete. So now what I can do is I can just call this, I can invoke this event handler, and whoever owns this object can perform the actual deletions. I do want to do it in one batch because it'd be a lot faster, I think, just to iterate over this thing once. So yeah, let's pass it through a set. On chunks deleted, on unload. Let's do on unload chunks. Okay, and then this will take a hash set. I hate there's no interface for sets in C#, or at least not that I know of. Collections. Oh, there is an iSet. Take it back. There we go. So all I have to do is on unload chunks, invoke deleted chunks. Now, wherever it is that I instantiate this thing, which is in Server Manager, maybe? Yes. Configure the invalidation listener. Yeah, let's do invalidation manager on unload chunks. Chunks. I'm just going to iterate through each of the children. How do I get the children of this object? We have remote entity data on these, so let's just do remote entity data. So we'll find anything that has a remote entity data. We will right, that's going to be a get components in children. No, it's even just simpler than that. It's just get components that dot for each. So we're just going to go over every entity in the game, and we're going to just say if. Hello, Oslath. Welcome back. You're coming into a very quiet stream today. I guess it's late. It's late weekend in the US, so not all that surprising. Okay. While I thought I was done with netcode, I am still going on netcode. Once I've got this stuff done, though, I think that things are going to be in a pretty good position. Entity dot remote entity data. So I need to find the chunk that this thing's in. It has a coordinate. It's called dot location. Location dot UV is the chunk. I should rename that, but anyway. The question is, does chunks contain it? And if it does, then I need to delete it. Destroy entity. Okay. So whenever we get some chunk deletions come through from the server, we'll add them into a set, we'll send them through to this handler, and this will just go and search through all of our entities and destroy anything we need to. Yeah, I could optimize this, but this is simpler. Okay, this is running. This can probably be stopped. Oh, I need to do something about these names. That's going to start annoying me. I think that the issue here is I need a toString on my UUID. Or a better way of, let's I got rid of toString, didn't I? I was concerned that I'm calling into toString accidentally sometimes. So a better way of doing this might actually be to take the code that is generating those names, which is going to be remote underscore, no, oh, TypeScript. Oh, this is wrong project. Let's try that again. Remote underscore. We've got two different cases where this happens, so that should be remote entity ID dot to. Do I not have a way of converting these to strings? To string. Okay. I'm not sure why C# isn't, well, sorry, not C#. I don't know why Unity isn't calling into this code. Where am I? I think that if I make that to string, it will work. I could have sworn this would call into that. Anyway. I don't know what this code here is. It's obviously doing the same thing though. Now, if I run it, hopefully it all works better. Tiny game window. That's all we need. That is not what I wanted. Definitely not what I wanted. That's calling to string on the byte array. It's ID. It's a UUID. UUID to string. Oh, that's annoying. How have I done that? That shouldn't be new. That should be override. I'm really surprised that I have not noticed that before. I'll just make sure that works. That should call the right function now, but I suspect I don't need to call to string. I think that what was happening is Unity was seeing that I had not overridden to string, and so it was just using some internal default. Nope, still not there. I'm going to need some breakpoints. Starters, I'm not sure which of these two code paths I'm coming in through. Yeah, no, this is my own. This is my own UUID class, and yeah, I've implemented to string here. Like this. Get a breakpoint in there as well, just in case this is doing something silly, but I can't imagine, like if this were going wrong, if this were putting the hyphens in there, then I'd expect to see double hyphens down in here. So I don't think this code is actually running. So run this. think I have a debugger connection. Yes, of course I do. So if I hit run, I should hit that breakpoint inside my toString, which I do. Oh, yeah, okay. Um, its bit converter to string is inserting those hyphens. Can I tell it not to? No, but I can probably do like a dot replace. Yeah, let's just do that. Uh, select there. Dot replace. I love multi-edit. There we go. Editing lots of lines at once. Okay, we'll run this again. Turn off my breakpoints for a moment to allow it to stop running. Play. I'm sure there's a better way of doing it than bit converter. Turn off my breakpoints again. Something doesn't look right here. Let's do that, that. There we go. That's what I want it to look like. Now what I want to do, yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about the string manipulation. It's a little bit hacky, but if I step forward, we should see chunks getting loaded. Now, as I step backwards, the best way of doing this. Oh, I know the best way of doing it. Let's just run forwards heaps. Grab just any old stone. So I'm going to come into the scene view. In fact, I'll grab the player. Find the player. Here's the player. And then I'll grab a stone, say this one over here. Okay, so that kind of ends in, well, let's copy the name. Oops. Oh, damn it. Copy reference. Making it easy. Here we go. There's the string I'm after. Why can't I copy that? Control C, Control Insert, one of those. There we go. Having an atrocious time here. Yay, here we go. Here is the string I want. All right. Now, I'm hoping that this goes missing at some point. So let's come back into the game. So that's some rock somewhere over there. Now, if I run this way, I was hoping that it would unload my chunks. I don't know what this received packet with bad hash is. I think I've seen this before. I think that it does this when it sends an empty packet through. And it appears to be a difference in the implementation of my two hashing algorithms as to the interpretation of an empty packet, the CRC calculation. But where are we at? I've still got all these entities loaded. I've probably got like heaps of entities now. Yeah, that's more entities than we normally have. Okay. I know what this is going to be. I think that I store um okay, hold on. Let me find my code. Here it is. So I think that somewhere in here I actually store all of the entities that need to be constructed. Yeah, I've accidentally got a spam bot turned on. Apologies for that. I don't know how to easily turn it off. Actually, maybe I can do that by refreshing my chat window. There we go, disable. That should stop the spam bot. But do make sure you're subscribed. I know I'm way behind on getting my devlog episodes out. I do apologize for that. I've just had so many other things on. I think I also need a holiday. Yeah, so I think I store somewhere in here a list of items that need to be instantiated. And so I suspect that we are coming in here. Let's just put a breakpoint there. I reckon we are coming in here, but it's then instantly reinstantiating those objects because we have a yeah, we've got an index of things that need to be created. It's like a shadow copy of all of the game objects, the copy that came from the server. So I should have about 200 objects here. That looks like about 200. If I run forwards, we should hit a breakpoint. That's not the breakpoint I meant. It's my cursor. Oh, I need a cursor. No, we didn't hit the breakpoint. It is never trying to unload those objects. Or there's something wrong with my loop. Does this event handler ever get called? Yes. This is trying to unload 7 chunks. Oh, I am iterating over the wrong transform or something. This is systems game. Systems game. So this is definitely the right object. Ah, this is meant to be get components in children. That's trying to get components on the game object itself, but I'm trying to iterate over the children of it. Yeah, so I was right the first time when I wrote that code. Just going to disable these breakpoints, restart the client. Do turn that one on so we can see some items getting unloaded. I'm going to need to have a coffee break in a moment. Okay, so we run forward. There we go. Here it is unloading some data. Now, if I run round heaps, what I don't want to happen is I don't want to see it having lots and lots of items behind me. It does seem like a lot of items behind me, doesn't it? I don't want this to get longer than 200. Yeah, that's a lot longer than 200. So I am pretty sure that I am, oh, unhandled exception. Okay. Server manager line 124. Control G, 124. Yes. So this piece of code is trying to handle the invalidation of something. So we're getting an invalidation. We're going off and fetching it. But I'd say what's happening here is that it doesn't have a remote entity data field. Oh, I'm only destroying the component, I'm only destroying the remote entity data component. That's a bit silly. Destroy, not that one, not that one. Here it is. I'm going to place a bookmark here. But this is meant to be destroying the actual game object itself. Yeah, so what was happening, I think, is it was trying to load the entities in when I reloaded a chunk, because that comes in as a kind of normal invalidation. But it was seeing that there were already objects there, but then it was assuming that they had the correct component on them, which they didn't because I had just deleted it. We'll try again, and hopefully this will work. I'm still concerned that I've got a piece of code somewhere that will be recreating these entities. Let's say that's what 200 looks like. So let's have a bit of a run around. I don't want to turn because if I hit a breakpoint while I've got my mouse held down, I lose my mouse cursor, which is really annoying. Still getting errors. The issue here is that I'm trying to manipulate an object after it's been deleted. Oh, yeah, okay. Um, so we're getting an entity. Yeah, here we go. So we have this thing called entity index, and this just goes from an entity ID to the game object. And this is just a cache so that we can very quickly look up items based on their remote entity ID. Problem is, when I unload a chunk, I'm not cleaning up this index. So that is very easy for me to do. Go back to my bookmark. When we destroy the item, I also need to remove the entity ID. Um, like that. I think that will work. I don't think this should be a string. I think it should be a UUID, but I might end up having to write some Unity editor code to support that, so I will leave it for now. It just means I have to construct extra UUIDs all the time. I mean, it's only when we're unloading something, so it's not the end of the world. Okay, test this. Once I've got this working, I'm going to go grab some coffee. Okay, I'm keeping an eye on this scroll bar. I'm expecting it not to change size too much as I run around. There we go. It's kind of growing and shrinking. That's okay, as long as it doesn't continuously shrink. It is shrinking, isn't it? Yeah, it is definitely getting smaller and smaller. Oh, maybe. It seems to be about consistent now, doesn't it? Um, oh, I just managed to step under a tree that was looting. um, no, that's well and truly more than 200 items. Uh, yeah, you can see items way off in the distance there. Well, I can. Don't know how they're coming up on stream, but I can definitely see too many items in the distance. I guess trees are the best indicator, right? You can see these trees from ages away. Yeah, I'm sure those trees should have unloaded by now. Some stuff's unloading, other stuff isn't. It's bizarre. Did they just unload it? They unloaded. Must have a race condition or something. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know what could be causing it. I must have another index somewhere that's not being updated, but why only sometimes? I'm going to put a little debug in here, which is after it unloads chunks. After unloading, whoops, I need that to be a $sign chunks.count chunks. We have that many entities. So now we can actually, quantify the issue. Restart the game. That's a bit of a worry. Why is, oh, yeah, it's unconditionally calling that event. I'll just quickly fix that. That's going to annoy me. On unload chunks. Nope, that's not what I want. I want this usage. Yeah, this should only happen if deleted chunks count is greater than 0. No point in calling that event if nothing's being unloaded. Sure, that's all compiled. It's good. Hey, that looks a bit better. Now we'll cause it to unload some chunks. Huh. All right. So the issue here is the server appears to be continuously sending through these unloads. I don't think that describes the problem I'm seeing, but it is definitely not ideal. And is going to lead to all sorts of weird issues. Because that means we're going to be unloading chunks while reloading them and things, potentially. So, what I need to do is over on the server, I think I know what this problem here is. When we process acknowledgements from the client, process acknowledgements, the client acknowledges the message. Now, deletions are a special case, chunk deletions, because the client doesn't need to do those asynchronously. So we know that once the client has acknowledged a message, that it is acknowledging any deletions that were part of that message. So apply the message one. If It's like it's not getting done and restarting the code each frame. Yeah, I've got a feeling this, the fact that the server is continuously sending them through is, it could conceivably be at least confusing the code that is responsible for the unloading. Um, and here the issue is that it does have in its index, sorry, in its client state, it does have the, well, it'll think that the client still has all of those chunks loaded. We never unload those on the server side. And so every single frame, the server is going to think that it needs to tell the client to delete them. So what we need to do in here, and that'll have all sorts of weird effects. Like if the server suddenly decides that it needs to load stuff, I've got no idea what it's going to do at that point. So yeah, this is definitely going to confuse things. Now, normally what we do when we acknowledge a message is we just go through the entity updates that were part of that message and we apply them into the client state. But we can go further than that and do chunk invalidations dot filter. If we find any invalidation whose update type is a deletion, I think that needs to be proto dot. Yeah. Then what I can do is I can then run over each of those. I'll just call this a deletion. Chunk. Deletion. Hello, Kilo. Welcome to the stream. Currently fixing some bugs in the netcode in my survival crafting MMO. It is not handling communication of chunk unloading properly between the server and the client. So what it needs to do at this point is remove. So we know that the client has acknowledged a packet where we told the client to delete a bunch of entities. So we just need to delete those entities on the server side from its copy of the client state. So this dot client state chunk key. I need chunk key. Which comes from the chunk deletion record coordinate. And here, I think we can just delete that. It doesn't like chunk key, why not? Because it's undefined. Yeah, well, the good news, Kilo, is that today we are getting a bit of time in the game itself. So you'll see kind of what my very, very, very low fidelity graphics look like. And hopefully see chunks getting unloaded properly. So I'll just put this inside an if chunk key. So the issue here that it had is that it it won't allow me to delete this if chunk key is not defined. So let's just say, I mean, I know that it's always defined, but I might as well just test it. It is a fair bit to do solo, Kilo, an MMO. But I had an idea for a way of implementing it that I think is relatively little effort compared to the way it's normally done. And I am much of the way through. I don't know, does anyone else remember how long I've roughly been working on this netcode? I think it's about 3 months that I've been working on the server infrastructure, and I'm pretty much there from the server side of things. There's still a lot to do to get it fully scalable, but it is most of the way there now. One day I may even, it would be quite cool if I could release it as a like a standalone product so that other game developers could easily implement their own MMOs. Okay, so you can see I'm intentionally having objects load a little further than the terrain, so ignore that for now. What matters is my logging here. I expect to have about 150 items in the game even once I run around. So we just unloaded 3 chunks. We have 150 entities. And we're still doing this. Okay. Why? I mean, this is suspicious. I wonder if the client is rejecting the packet. Well, no, because it should be acknowledging these packets then. Frustrating. Okay, I'll just do a bit more running around and just make sure that the numbers stay fairly stable. Our trees disappeared. That's good. Do I have trees? There we go. There's some trees appearing. There's some trees there. We've run away. Stuff looks like it's unloading properly now, right? Okay, a number of entities looks really good. So I think I've fixed the bug. And again, don't worry about this flickeriness. This is just because everything is turned all the way down to make this easier to debug. Okay, that is not unloading over there. And I've got these trees flickering. But this could well be because we're both unloading and reloading the chunks at the same time. All right. So, yeah, it's definitely failed to unload some stuff over there. Stuff is way outside our viewable distance. All right. We're after unloading 23 chunks. What? The number went down? It did. It managed to acknowledge a single chunk. um, okay. I need a breakpoint somewhere. I'm going to throw one here. Well, that's not a good sign. We're never hitting that breakpoint. Hit that one. Oh, okay. Am I not storing the messages properly? Take all the chunks out of the game, problem solved. You joke, but a much simpler solution here would be for the server not to be doing the unloading. There's no reason the client couldn't do the unloading. The reason I'm not doing that is because I did notice a bug in the way that the server removes items from the game, and this is just a really convenient way of reproducing it. Um, okay. One issue I probably have is I have a to-do somewhere in here. To do check this implementation. Okay, so this is doing the unloading. This code can be simplified. Thanks for the follow, Kilo. Yeah, so I need to simplify this. This could well be causing issues. So this is it comes into this code here when it can see that the client knows about some entities and the server wants it to have no entities within that chunk. See here, if the chunk key is not in the server entities by chunk, so we want the client to clear that chunk. What it's currently doing is it's trying to send through individual deletions for each item until it gets the 6th item. That one there is 5. And at that point, it converts it into a deletion of the chunk, so an unload. Whereas what we really want to do is get rid of this else case. Because we never want to put individual deletions through. Let's get rid of the else case. Yep, we're going to get lots of errors now. I'll just stop the game. It's going to get confused. And then we want to do this code here unconditionally. When we come through the first item getting deleted, we just want to invalidate the entire chunk. We never need to do that. Keep chunks. What's that set to? Oh yeah, that is just all the other chunks. It is. So yeah, we know that this is going to be empty just because we specifically know that we never pulled these items out of that the server has no chunks. The server has no items in this chunk because we're in this piece of code. But I'll keep it there for good measure. Keep chunks gets set. So that should just be all the other chunks. We set that there. So this is kind of unnecessary. I could just leave this as index.bychunk because I know that there is no data in this chunk. Deleted chunks. Yep, so we add this to the list of deleted chunks. And then we add an invalidation message and tell it to delete all the entities in that chunk. All right. I'm going to get rid of that to do. I have gotten rid of the duplication. Just did that then. Okay, I don't think that that will have been the issue, but at least the code is simpler now. Do we ever remove these? Bet you we don't. Um, Just jumping around my code here. Oh, that reducer is still huge. Need to break that down at some point. Yeah, so we do delete the deleted entities, deleted chunks. Okay, I'll just try running this code again. See if that magically fixes it. I very much doubt that it will. Server is up and stable. Excellent. Run the client. We've got our first acknowledgement coming through. Message is undefined. Okay, so we are acknowledging a message that has already been ACKed. Ends in 836. Yeah, okay, this isn't right. Pending messages is meant to store a copy of all the messages that we've sent out. This totally explains what we're seeing. Because if it never stores its pending messages, then when the client acknowledges one, then we can never apply that into the client state. But that would suggest we're never coming in here. So how is it updating the client state? We're not sending through multiple chunk invalidations for the chunk loading. Sure enough, we never come into that loop. Chunk loading works through a different mechanism, of course. Yeah, we're getting some sort of flicker there. What is happening here is we're getting, you can see stuff unloading in the distance. We are getting the chunk invalidations. We're acknowledging those separately. They get acknowledged through a separate mechanism. So ignore those because they have to happen asynchronously. So they get acknowledged later and their state is stored separately. Okay. This code here is busted. And the reason is apparently we never update pending messages. And sure enough, I don't see any code that will ever update it. I mean, this is the code responsible for loading it out of the persistent store. And there's code somewhere for persisting it in the first place, but unless we're updating pending messages, this code will never work. And the only cases we've got, that was the deserialization code. We've got the code that looks up the message when we're processing an acknowledgement. And then we've got the code that deletes the message when we're processing the acknowledgement. But I never add pending messages. Okay. This is going to be fairly easy to fix if I just find the right function. We've got generate message, which is the thing that generates the message. There we go. In here, I just need to say const message equals that, return message. But in here, I need to say this dot pending messages dot push message. What's wrong with that? Oh, it needs to be by ID. Pending messages message ID. Equal to message. Message dot ID. No, hang on. Where do I generate my message ID? It's up the top here somewhere. Message ID. Yep, cool. So that is meant to be message ID dot to UUID string. Oh, right. Just get a bookmark in there. Get another one up the top of the function. This function's just way too big. We do correctly push that message ID into that dictionary, into that array. So if I restart this, I reckon we'll stop getting duplicate chunk unloading events coming through. And that piece of missing code is going to explain a whole lot of weirdness we've been getting. Oh, did I wait for the server to start? Ugh. Yeah, apparently. Okay. We'll run around a bit, get it to unload some chunks. After unloading 4 chunks. Still doing it. All right, I'm going to take a quick 5-minute break, get myself some coffee. Just see if I can find my coffee. Be back soon. Yeah, I normally take less than 5 minutes, so I'll just set my timer. Reset. So I will be back in about 4 or 5 minutes. And I'm back. Okay. Coffee pot is on my mouse. That's not going to work very well. There we go. Okay. Thank you. So it is still batching these things up. It seems to be behaving better and better in that the number of entities is definitely not going up, but the number of chunk invalidations is. This is probably going to be something fairly straightforward. Where are my breakpoints? Yeah, so we're still not hitting these breakpoints. That suggests that pending messages is just empty. This dot, no, it's not empty. We have got hundreds upon hundreds of messages in there. Oh, this is a huge object. Oh, sorry, that's the pending message IDs. Pending messages is likewise getting really big. Look at them all. They're all like multi-kilobyte messages. Well, roughly kilobyte messages, I think they are. Oh, interesting. No, we can see they're kind of 96, 97 bytes each. That's actually really good. I want to keep them well under a kilobyte whenever I can. And the good news is that's like, yeah, that doesn't sound, are we really sending 12 invalidations in 96 bytes? Well, either way, we're not invalidating, we're not acknowledging these messages, otherwise they would have been deleted. So, what is going on here? We've got ACK. What's ACK? ACK is just some packet ID, some message ID. In this case, it ends in AA7. Do we have an AA7 ending somewhere around here? I don't see one. I assume it's not possible for the client to acknowledge a packet before it's been assisted. No, that shouldn't be possible. Is it possible that the client is sending through the wrong kind of ID? That's possible. So what I'll do here to rule that in or out. Yeah, this stuff does get a bit tough. So normally what developers do at this point with a bug like this is write unit tests. It's a kind of test that just makes sure that a piece of code does what it claims to do. The problem here is this is some sort of an issue between the server and the client, and so it's really hard to write tests for it because you're assuming correct behavior on the other side. I mean, I could write tests on either side. That would probably be the smart thing to do, but that's not nearly as fun. Another thing about developers is we don't like writing tests. That's not entirely true. Sorry, I'm just preparing my coffee. I do French press coffee, so just steeped it, just pressing it now, and then I'll be in a much better position to debug this stuff. Right, where's the nozzle? There's the nozzle. What time is it here? It is 12:15, so just after midday. I'm in Sydney, Australia here. Um, all right. So how am I going to debug this? 917 there, yeah. Um, oh, 917. Oh, you're probably like mountain time or something, are you? Central. Yeah, okay. Yes, of course. 7 hours to Pacific time. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I always kind of keep my head around Pacific time and Eastern time. But I tend not to remember CST and MST. I have worked with American companies a lot though, so once upon a time I used to have to worry about that. Okay, what am I doing? I am trying to see exactly what the client is acknowledging. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to blow away my database just so that I've got a completely fresh start. I can then start up my server again. That. Wait for it to boot up properly and become stable. You guys can't really see that. There we go. There we go. I believe that's stable. Oh, no, now it's stable. Yeah, that's looking good. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to watch every single acknowledgement come in. So I'm going to set that breakpoint, spin up the client. Hopefully my debug connection doesn't crash. I just done. There we go. So here is an acknowledgement coming in from the client. This is the very first of them. And this is highly suspicious. Why is the client acknowledging a packet when we have never sent a packet? That can only mean two things. Either the client is sending the wrong ID, or we are pulling out the wrong ID. Process acknowledgements. Okay, so this is where we process the acknowledgements. What on earth is that? This doesn't look right. Oh, this is a test. Of course it's not right. Sorry, where does that get called? That gets called in the datagram generator. And this goes and checks if the session has an acknowledgement on it. I'm just going to fetch all the sessions, pipe it through JQ. Okay, which one is the correct? Okay, the session we're processing here, the session we're processing the packet for is 9F5. 9F5. So here is, well, the session ID. What am I doing? Oh no, it's a session for entity 9F5. So It is this session here. And this has last server ID act, but we'd never generated a packet. And the way it's meant to work is the client is meant to call into us with just an empty packet. That's how it establishes the connection. Well, maybe it has done that, and then maybe there's the second packet. So I need another breakpoint. We'll just run this. Get rid of that breakpoint. Oh, we'll just disable that breakpoint. What was that? Was that an error? Was that a legitimate error? Line 128. That looked like an error. By ID was null. Ooh, this looks interesting. I'm just going to keep an eye out for that. It could have just been a service restarting. Yeah, I was setting breakpoints and things. It's possible the session service just didn't quite serve a response properly, and that might have caused this code to break. Stop that one. Bring down the database so that we have no sessions in there. Start it up in the debugger, but before I connect a client, I am going to enable this breakpoint. No, I'm not going to enable that one. I'm going to put a breakpoint all the way up here. So we're going to see every single time the server tries to send something to the client. So the order that things happen are the client sends an empty packet to the server that allows the server to know where the client is, like what its IP address is. And from there, it will start generating packets. I'm expecting that first thing to come in from the client to not have an acknowledgement in it. There's nothing to acknowledge. And then the second one may have an acknowledgement. Okay. That's my logic. Come in here, you run that, hit our breakpoint. I've got to be fairly quick here because the session will time out after about a minute. We grab all of that stuff. Let's just check what our session looks like. And we don't have a last server ID, so we have not processed an acknowledgement. That's good. We come out of here, we grab the client state. This should be empty because the client has not got any data, and sure enough, all of our fields are empty. We go and generate a list of entities. This will be like, oh, I don't want to hit this breakpoint multiple times. Let me just try that again. Oh, this is the second packet coming through. All right, this is frustrating. I think I have already broken stuff. Because now we will have acknowledged a packet. Yep, there it is. I'm just going to have to restart this a few times to get this to catch the condition that I want. What I want to know is what is that first server message ID we generate, and is the client then acknowledging the correct ID? Yeah, all right. Blow away the database. I do code for a living, Kilo. Not normally games. I normally do um, cloud systems for um, passenger transport. Is probably the best way of describing it. Um, so things like booking taxis, uh, doing route searching for public transport, all that kind of stuff. Okay, I'm fortunate enough to be able to mess around with the timing of when I work. I have my own company, so I am able to work at night and then stream this stuff during the day. My family would not let me stream this stuff at night, so it is good being able to be that flexible. All right, where am I at? I've got in here, I've got my breakpoint set. I need to try and catch the ID being set. So here we grab the entities. How long have I worked on the game? Since I think about March I started. I was mostly focusing just on getting the all the terrain and things working to start with, and inventory systems, all that kind of stuff. A crafting system, not a crafting system yet. I've got a harvesting system. No, not too long. It's I'm reasonably happy with the progress so far. So here we grab the entities from the entity server. We process the acknowledgements. Um, then we generate the delta. Now, what I can probably do here to simplify the debugging is once I start the game, I can probably pause the game once we've hit this breakpoint so that we know no more packets are coming out. It won't stop the sessions from timing out, but it should improve things a bit if we're not getting extra packets coming in. I am a big MMO fan myself. Back in the day, I used to love EverQuest and EverQuest 2, and more recently, really love Eve. Very different style of game. But while I don't like a lot of the gameplay aspects of Eve, I just love the economics and community building in it. Absolutely love it. Not to mention the PvP elements, I think are great. So one of the design philosophies I'm taking is I want as much stuff to be player generated as possible. I want people to be creating the weapons, not like people crafting the weapons and building structures. So the structures would use player creativity. Weapons would not often drop from mobs you were fighting. You'd tend to have to buy them from other players. It's one of the things I want to try out. Okay. So just need to make sure I'm totally familiar with this code so that I can debug it as fast as possible once I hit these breakpoints. Process the acknowledgements. So first time through, this code should not run. We'll generate the delta. That should then generate a bunch of chunk invalidations to tell the client to load those chunks. Then that's it. There's nothing else really in here. Does need to update the state service. That just stores a copy of our client state. Which at this point should have a single message in it. In fact, this is the breakpoint I really want. I don't want this one. If I breakpoint here, I can see what came in. I will put a breakpoint here so that we can see whether or not there is an acknowledgement. Okay, here we go. Oh, this is not in debug mode. So let's stop it and restart it. Otherwise, we will not hit any breakpoints. Yeah, even solo Eve isn't too bad. You can it's it's a game that you don't have to play with friends, like with real life friends. Um, the the way that the early game is structured, it kind of throws you into a default corporation, and so you kind of meet other players through that. And as long as you kind of don't mind, reaching out to random people and teaming up with random people, it can be quite fun just teaming up with um, with just random strangers on the internet. And then once you start to work out who's who, then you can look at joining other corporations. But I don't think I knew anyone in real life playing Eve when I was playing. I know people in real life who have played, but yeah, not when I was playing. It's the kind of game you either love or don't. I don't particularly like the fact that the 3D nature of it just doesn't really have much to do with the gameplay. You can play pretty much the whole thing just by clicking on tables in Windows, which I don't know, but there's the joke that it's um, spreadsheets in space is the gist of the game. All right, let's run this. And then as soon as I hit that first breakpoint, I'm going to pause the game so that we don't generate any more traffic. Go, pause the game. There we go. Now, in here, we don't have a server rack. That's fine. We're going to generate... Oh, sorry, we're going to store this new client state. It should have a single pending message. It does. Let's just get my editor. Make sure I don't paste anything sensitive. Then, so that's the ID. We're going to run again. We still don't have an ACK. That's fine. So we're just generating packets at the moment that are going out to the client. That's fine. So I'm going to resume the game and then run this. Now we have ACKed a message and it is the wrong one. That does not match that. Whose fault is it? It's driving me nuts. Okay. The component responsible for storing this data here is the UDP receiver service. So let's just eyeball that code. The Eve learning curve chart. No, I've not seen it. I'm not sure if you're able to, what I'll do is, I'm not sure if you're able to post URLs in chat. So I will just do Eve learning curve. I presume that we want images. There's a few of these. Not sure which one you're referring to. Oh, first one on the left. This one. Yeah. Yep. That's fair. I mean, this is suspicious. We parse the payload. We pull out the acknowledged ID, but we don't actually do anything with this. Oh, that's probably done in here. Report sighting. Uh, last server ID act is the client message.ack. Yeah, at some point, Eve put the Eve developers, I believe, put a fair bit of work into an early game quest line that um, helped to teach the game. So you'd have like a single NPC that you'd go to, um, and they would just give you a series of missions that kind of taught you the ins and outs of the game. You know, there's still uh, plenty of features to hang yourself on, but it at least got they improved it a lot in giving you some onboarding through quests. So we're definitely pulling out the correct field. Client message, client message. Got an ID, got an ACK. Okay. So next thing to debug. I need to see what the client is actually sending through. Oh, well, let's just run the server then. I'll stop the client. I'll set some breakpoints on the client side. I need to set when it receives a packet from the server so that I can see the ID, and when it, that's not what I wanted. And I also want a breakpoint when it is about to send a message out so that we can confirm whether or not it thinks it's sending the right acknowledgement. And I reckon when I'm setting these breakpoints, I'm probably going to find the actual error. Um, Control F12. Where do I can't remember where I actually process the messages. Control F12. I can't remember how my code works. Question new session. Process message from server. Okay, this is a good one. We'll check the server ID coming in. And somewhere in here, status changed, update. I think this is where this is all a bit dodgy. I think this is where we generate the packets. Yep, there's the client message. Where do we set the acknowledgement? Well, if I come into client message, ACK, here it is. All right, here is the error. Pending message ID is the ID of the client message. fact, I don't even need these breakpoints. Let's just start the server up again. I can demonstrate they're the same. But to do that, yeah, hold on. Let's just come down here. Where do I send out that packet? That packet gets sent out in here. Just breakpoint there. Nope, let's come down the bottom to when we actually send it out. Stream.getBuffer. Payload array is all just packing it in. Where is it? Message, here we go. This is where we actually write the message. So we can see a message getting written out here. What's it got in it? It's got an acknowledgement. Let's just remember the last bit, 121. Well, 342 and 121. And then we will have in here somewhere an ID as well. 060851. No, these aren't the same. Oh, how frustrating. All right. Here we receive a message. This one ends in 165. We write a message, 694. All right, so this is always just acknowledging the same message ID, and I have no idea where that came from. Well, at least we know it's not right. And it totally explains the behavior we're seeing. Right, here's a message going out. We must have just created a new session. I don't even know where to start on this. I guess I should trace through what actually happens to the ID of this message. So Invalidation Manager goes and captures a bunch of data that has nothing to do with message acknowledgement. It does process chunk invalidation acknowledgement, but that's not what we're working with here. We grab this message, we go through each of the updates, and we appear to never actually store the ID. Unless I do it in here, I don't think I do. Yeah, handle X from server is just acknowledging, it's like acknowledgements of acknowledgements. So, I've lost my code. Process message from server. Yeah, so this definitely never captures that ID. So what we should be doing is I'm just going to have like a last server ID, message ID. Process server message ID is going to be message.id. tell IntelliJ or Rider, whatever tool I'm using at the moment, tell that to go off and create it. There we go. Then, when we create a client message, processed server message ID. And then finally, when we send it, which happens in here, we should not be overriding it. I don't know. I'll be happy if that works, but that feels too easy. Stop that. Bring down my database so I've got a clean server. Start it up again. I'll only be streaming a few more minutes. I haven't had lunch, and I probably need to do that at some point. Let's see if I can get this bug fixed first. Okay, I'm going to have breakpoints going off all over the place here. So I'm going to be jumping through windows. Pause the game. Get our first packet through. That's all fine. Restart, resume the game. Pause the game. Okay. So here we have an ACK for an ID ending in FA6. The client state has a message that matches. We are acknowledging this message here, which has a chunk invalidation associated with it. I don't know why there's only one chunk invalidation. Oh, that's pretty funny. It was generating the scatter midway through creating packets. That's fine. That is allowed. Okay, so disable all the breakpoints. Let that run through. Something's not working there. Must be something has timed out. A session went bad, perhaps. We've loaded a bunch of entities. We run up the hill. Loaded some terrain, loaded some other entities. I don't think we unloaded anything. It's a bit surprising. After unloading 2 chunks, we have 139 entities. This is so painful. It's not meant to be doing this. And once again, we've got heaps of these. This might just be an error in the way that I do my acknowledgement processing. So I'll get a breakpoint in here. Then we're going to step in here. We grab the message. We don't have one. I have it. Are we getting a different ID each time? We are getting a different ID each time. That's good. we've got 68 pending messages. So these are unacknowledged messages. We're trying to acknowledge one ending in 361. Presumably would be right near the end of the list. It's not in there. I'll have a couple more cracks at this, and then I will probably look at fixing it off stream. Do that. Bring the database down. Oh, that's not going to work. Can't run the game without the server. Yeah, catch you around, Kilo. Thank you for joining. I stream most days at about 10 o'clock my time normally, so yeah, late afternoon your time. Early evening. Thank you. See you next time. Okay. Ending messages. This does not look right. Ah, that's not right. That should be server. Think. Yeah, it's trying to acknowledge the client ID instead of the server message ID. This is looking good. I'll just make sure that the acknowledgement code goes through properly. Lost my debug connections. I'll bring that up again. Here we go. Unfortunately, this means I'm processing code. I'm running code for the first time because none of this code had any chance of running before. Yep. All right. So I have no idea what state this is going to be in. Just get some stuff unloaded and see how it behaves. Oh no, everything's crashing and burning because we're not getting any new content over here. That's promising. seems to be processing the unloads correctly. As we run around, we get new chunk unloads. Not sure why stuff isn't actually unloading. That's probably because all my Delta code's broken. Server-side unload looks like it is definitely working. Oh, why did we just get a new session? Have I got a breakpoint hit somewhere? No. Okay, so I think that this function here is going to need a lot of debugging. So I'm going to finish up the stream here. I'm not sure if I've got a lot of other stuff I need to be working on, unfortunately. So I'm not sure if I'll get onto this afternoon or if I'll just resume tomorrow's stream, trying to debug this. So thank you everyone for joining. And until next time, I'll catch you around.